Hi everyone, this is Pierrick from P2DESIGN. In this new tutorial I will be covering painting using Blender to paint your textures. I will be covering mainly all the tools used in Blender, and also I will show you some of my favorite workflow to paint textures and characters at the end of this tutorial. First of all, I would like to add that there are many people that only use the mouse in Blender, but the input of a tablet is really a plus in your workflow because you can deal with pressure, and for painting and for sculpting this is really a good enhancement. And for a small budget, around $50, you can find cool tablets that are really enough to have a super result. You don't need a pro tablet or something like this. Really a simple tablet that have a pressure system is enough. So let's get started. We will add a simple cube. Okay, and to be able to paint it we need to UV and wrap it. So I will do it very fast. Okay, selecting some edges, Ctrl E mark seams, A to select all, U and wrap. I go in the UV editor. That's fine. I will scale it a little down so that I don't touch the UV map boundaries, and I will create a first one. Let's call it first map. We will keep this size and make it white and press OK. Then I will save this image. You see here the little star, meaning that you have made some modification or created a new map, but that this file hasn't been saved yet. So I will save it here, first map, save as image, and we return to the 3D viewport. I'm using a cycle render by now. When I go in texture paint mode, you see there is missing data and it appears to be purple. Okay, what you need to do in cycle to be able to start texture painting is to create a material and add an image slot to it. You don't need to input it or to plug it to any node. You just need to select, oh sorry, I have a lot of stuff, first map, and now it will be okay. And you see here in the slots I have my first map. Okay, so first here we know that in Blender 2.272 there is a new brush, the fill brush, that is very useful, but it doesn't appear here. So to enable it, just create a new one, call it fill, and here in brush go in image paint tool and select fill. Now it's available. So this tool is pretty simple. You select a color, I disable the pressure, and it fills the map. Okay, so let's see the different kind of brush we have here. So the basic brush, the half draw, and this one are slightly exactly the same effect. I believe they are here so that you can set up different setting actually and go from one to the other without moving all your sets. Okay, so let's take the first one, paint on our object like this. Okay, pressing F I can change the size of my brush. So you just paint with this one, then this one, the smear, allows you to take an area on your map and extend it. So if I increase my strength, and this is very useful when painting a character to get rid of seams and also to have a more natural result on your map. The soften is kind of the same, but it's really a blurring effect on the area. Okay. The clone brush, I don't use it that much. I've seen some tutorial to set cloning setups that works nicely, but really I didn't find it handy. It's a pretty long process and not obvious to set, but currently it works like this. You select an area, hold Control, click on the area, and then paint on the side, and it will clone what you've just done. Okay, so I absolutely don't use this brush, and so I won't be going any further with this one. So here we have the options for our color selector. Okay, we have two slots. When you draw, it will use the first color. If you keep Control key hold, it will use the second color. You can switch them here, pressing Control. Okay. The radius is available using F. The strength is available using Shift F. Okay, Control F allow you to rotate your tool. So here it has no sense because I'm using a round shape, but if you are using a texture, that's gonna be useful, and we will see that later. Okay, so using the pressure option on the radius, when I press highly on my tablet, it makes me a big stroke, and when I release my pressure, so it gets smaller. So you have a more natural movement in your painting. It's also the same with the contrast, the level of strength, the strength of the color. Okay, you see if I press high and go. So you can combine them. I rarely use this one, but I often use this one. Okay. The blending type is set to mix. You can use add, that will increase the light of your painting. Multiply will darken the area mostly, and you can use all the options that are available in the node. So basically you will often use mix, add, multiply and overlay, and we will try to understand multiply and overlay function later in this tutorial. So there is this new tool that is very useful. You can create palettes to store your color. Okay, so just create a new palette. By default it's set with a fake user so that you won't lose it if you close Blender and reopen your file. You can add a color, and the color stored here is now available here. If I select create a new one, I can store it also. So you can store as much color as you want. That's very useful, because picking the color in the viewport is not always super handy, because it takes in account what you are seeing. So we also take in account the shading. Here and here I have exactly the same gray, okay? But if I pick it here, it is a light gray, and here a dark one, a darker one, and bluish one, because it takes in account the viewport shading. So before we jump into the textures, because I want to show you how to create your own textures, how they work. Will be a lot of stuff. We will cover the options available here. So here you can display the shape of your brush like this, the texture, currently I haven't any texture, and the mask texture. Okay, so it allows you while you're painting to see those elements. What is interesting for us here is those options. The normal option allow you to change the strength of your stroke depending on the angle of the surface you are painting. If I reduce it here to 30%, get rid of the pressure and paint in white, you'll see that here it only paints the face, the face where the normal eye are pointing to us. So if I increase this value, let's try again. I will change the color to make paint here to make it more obvious. It is starting to paint also here because those two normals are pretty pointing to us, while this one not at all. And if I get to 70, so it's an angle in degree, okay, you'll see that it paints everywhere. And here you see that it's painting with full strength here, while here it is more subtle. So basically I let it to the default value. The bleed value here is very interesting, and we will see it here, and it's very important to use it. Bleeding is the amount of pixels that are written outside of the UV island, and that's very useful because when you will subdivide your map, okay, if you don't have this bleeding option enabled while painting, whenever you go on the square it's not so obvious, but with more complex shapes, it is risky because you will see those white areas crossing the UV map, and you will see the seams and stuff like this. So always try to keep it as high as possible. So if we open the UV map here, we use reddish color so it will be obvious. I think I'm painting somewhere here. Okay. If I increase the bleeding value like this, you see it's getting outside of the UV island further. Okay. So a very interesting stuff here. Is those one. Occlude, cool, normal. I will get rid of everything and show you why it is so interesting. The occlude, when it's enabled, mean that if there is a face crossing my stroke, what's behind won't be covered. If I disable it, it will paint through my mesh. And this is very interesting if you are doing some kind of clothes and you want to make stripes. It's easy to make those stripes nicely around your mesh. Okay, so here I had to use the angle and it will work. Okay, the cue, when you are painting like this, okay, whatever face where the normal is not pointing at you, even if you see behind it, it won't be paint. Okay, I will use another color so it will be more obvious. Here you see the difference. If I disable it, it paints everywhere. Okay, can unify your setting from between the different brushes and select here if you want to keep the color, the strength and the size. Usually I just keep them all together. Okay, so one last thing, if you have multiple map for your object, you just have to duplicate the image texture nodes and open whatever you want here, and then when you are in painting mode, you will see the different slot. Just select the one you want to paint on. Okay, and when you're happy with all your painting, you can save all the images. And do remember that saving your blend file doesn't save your maps, so it's very important to go into the UV editor, image, save image, or save as image, okay, or save all images. This is super important. Okay, so now let's see some cool stuff here. I will show you the texture in the last time, because we will go into Photoshop, and I will also explain you how they are used, how they interact with the color here, because it's not so obvious, and it took me some research to really understand how it goes. So I will fill it again. I will go in my UV image, in my node editor, and get rid of the useless maps. Okay, and now we will see the different strokes, and those are really nice option not to forget. Okay, we'll use a white color. Space, it's the basic one. Okay, when I paint with this one, I will get rid of this. It will be more obvious. If I keep painting, when I get back on the same area, it won't accumulate the color. I need to release my tablet, release, and press again to increase the opacity of the selected color. Okay, the spacing will say what is the distance between two strokes. Here I press and don't release my pressure, and when I slide, it put dots with a space that is the size of my stroke plus 23%. So when it's only 10%, every time I move 10% of my stroke, you see another dot appearing. Okay. Drag dot. It's just I'm pressing here and release. Pressing, release. Very nice. Can be useful if you want to add small detail, decals or stuff like this. The dots, currently I don't really understand the difference between this one and the space, but the fact that we can change the space. Here we have this jitter option that I use a lot. It will randomly put dots where I'm going, and randomness when you are painting a texture is really important, because it gives it a more natural feel. So here I have this same option. If I use a big spacing and a big jittering, you can create a Christmas tree really fastly. Okay. The airbrush is very cool. So the airbrush works like an airbrush. If you keep the pressure and don't move, it fills the area. Slight move, I will use a color, I will reduce the strength, one slight pressure is like this, but if I keep the pressure, you see it filling the area. The rate will increase the space. It's like the spacing. Okay. So here, if I keep the position, I increase the opacity of my color. The anchor is very interesting using textures, and you may have seen this option often used in sculpting, especially in ZBrush when you make pores for the skin. That's very useful. You just drag the area you want to paint. Very, very nice. And we will see that with the texture it's really cool. Okay. The line. Well, it's a line. So I will use the space brush. Sorry, the line, and put the spacing at its minimum, and you just draw lines. Very useful. The curve. Okay, I will just fill my documents. The curve is not the more obvious tool, I would say, because I was not able to find how it works without testing and testing and testing, but it's pretty simple. You hold the control key and start to create your curve like this, and then it's like a texture or a mask used in stencil. And when you are happy with the position, for example, I want to paint something here, you press Enter key. Here you are, or here, draw curve. But it's better to use Enter key. Shortcuts are always better, and you can edit it as you want. Okay. To add a control point, just press Control. You can use G to move them, as usual, X to get rid of them. It's like editing a basic curve currently, and it can be very useful when you combine it with a texture like sewing textures or Sims textures. Very useful to set them, because you can use a method to give an orientation to your texture, and I will show it to you in a few seconds. Okay. Here in curve, I will get back to space. This is the shape of your brush, meaning this is the center of your brush, the outside of the brush here. So it's soft, strong in the middle, and weak on the outer area of the brush. Okay, and you have different kind of curves. We'll check here, just press here, here. So just try it. You can also edit them by hand and create strange painting stroke. Okay, and this one, this is the basic one to fill an area, for example. This one is very nice to create creases, for example. Okay. In this second part we will talk about the texture, and first we will be going through some theory about how the texture behave with the color you have to choose here, because it's not so obvious, and if you want to use a specific color inside your texture to paint your object, you need to understand how both of these behaves together. So I will fill my cube with this yellow color, for example. In Blender, the colors are dealt with a value that goes from 0 to 1, whatever kind of unit you are using, RGB or hue, saturation and value. And this is more obvious using those than using the one from Photoshop, for example, that use the color gradients of the screen using a value from 0 to 255. Why? Because when you are using, for example, the multiply option, it darkens the color most of the time. And you may say why? Because it really multiplies the stuff. So here my red value is at 1. If I multiply 1 by 1, I will have 1. Okay. But for the green value here, if I multiply the green value by 0.63, we'll use the UV image editor. In paint mode. Okay, so we'll use 0.5. I make one stroke. And here, this is my base color. If I multiply this channel 0.5 by 0.5, I will have a 0.25 color value. Now if I pick this color, oh, you see this, I may need to paint it twice. Okay, that's not the result I was expecting, but you see that it's dividing because we are multiplying by a value under 1. Okay, and it's the same problem when you are using a texture. So let's create one texture. It's pretty simple. Create a new texture here, call it basic brush, for example. Create a fake user so that you won't lose it when you reopen your file. Here in the texture, you go on brush, and in the image, open the image you want. So how it works, I will go to mix. When you paint using, we'll use the stencil so that I can see with control I can rotate it, shift I can, and right click I can increase its size and move it with the right click. If I paint using red color, it will pick the current color here and multiply it, even if I'm in mix mode, with the red. And you see the result here. So if I want to have exactly the same color as my picture, I absolutely need to use white. So all to one. And now it will pick the correct color. Okay, so if you paint with black, it will be all black, and if you paint with value of gray, it will just darken your picture. Okay, so if you use any color, it's gonna be a bit weird. Okay. So if you want to source an image, always use a white value here. Okay, let's see the different modes of the texture. We have stencil, so as you can see, You can move your source image in the viewport, scale it, holding C and right clicking, rotating it, pressing Ctrl and right clicking it, and move it, just press right clicking. Okay, and then when you paint, you just paint as you go. You can use all the options here. You can use the curve, for example. Okay, paint the curve, and here we are. Okay, so what if you want to use this color and source the contrast value of a map? And this is where it's becoming a little more difficult, maybe, but not that much. I will show you how to create a nice map using Photoshop. Okay, so let's go in Photoshop. Let's open one of our brush. So here these are tile texture, already tiled from CG texture. Okay, there are tons of cool texture here that are not open source, but Creative Commons, so you can use them even for your professional works. It's not a problem. Okay, and here I have some kind of skin texture. So what I want is not to use the color, but just choose the relief of this map. So what you have to do is change your image to black and white, selecting black and white or level of gray in English. Okay, once you have this, what we want is to increase the difference of color. So I will use a curve and increase the contrast here, like this, just to make it more obvious in our viewport. Okay, now I will I don't know how to say it in English, but I will flatten my image. Okay, so once you're happy with the contrast here, go into the codes, keep control pressed and click on this layer. It creates a selection based on the contrast of the different color of the based on the black and white scale. Now we create a new layer and fill it in white. Control D to deselect, get rid of this, and save this as a brush. Skin 01, for example. So basically, if I fill this layer in black, we will see that our white value has inherited our pattern. Okay, so this map is already tiled. I will show you how to create tile map now. Let's open this picture. I will select a square area here that is interesting for me. Control C, Control W, Control N, Control V. Okay, I will turn it to grayscale. Now in image size, I will check this value, 624 divided by 2. Okay, something like this. And then use in filter translation and use. Okay, so now I have this weird effect with the stamp. I will get rid of those things. So with a smooth brush, you can get rid of those seams. The problem here I will have is that the level of darkness is not super super even. You need to avoid really dark areas and really clear areas, so that I'm overpainting everything here, but that's gonna be fine. Then when I do a translation again, here I have a new seam, just get rid of it, just have a last try, and now it is fine. Okay, so same as before, I go in the coat, control and click, fill with white, control D, get rid of this, and save this as a PNG with transparency. That's very important. So now in Blender I will create a new map, a new texture. Call this skin 01, for example. Create a fake user again. Go here and open one of the brushes I have created. Okay. So here we are in stencil mode. Sorry. We'll use the tile mode. Okay. And here it can be useful to check this option. Okay. Now I can see my texture filling the screen with this alpha value. Okay. And it will allow me to change its size. For the time being, it's really too small and grainy. Okay, so I will increase its size. Oh, sorry, you have to divide it, I believe. Yeah, and now we can see I can get rid of it. You can see the result here. So as it is a tile map, sorry, I can paint as I want everywhere. We won't see any seams. Okay. So if I want it in red, just change the color. As our alpha was as our alpha map, or texture map, is purely white, when I multiply it by the selected color, I will have exactly the good color. But maybe it's not exactly what you want, and you want the crease to be dark, or in a greenish color, for example, and the white part in another color. You can do this here, using the color ramp. Okay, set the darken value with an alpha to the maximum. Okay, we'll use a white stroke, and now you will see a result here. The value where the alpha is at 100% turns to white here, and where it's at 0% it turns to black. Cool. So for example, if you are painting a strand skin like this, you can use it like this, or even add a color value here that will be lighter, and create complex colors, complex stuff very easily. So instead of trying to to get a great color, sourcing a map that already has color and stuff like this, you can create your own, okay, with an alpha and an even color setup. Okay, it won't be mixing weirdly with those stuff. Okay, if you uncheck the color ramp, you just get back to this setup. Okay, and this is going to be super useful on our next chapter when I will show you my workflow. Okay, when I paint maps and stuff like this. Okay, so let's just jump into it right now. Usually when I do texture painting, I don't use the new Circles painting tools because they are great. You can change of map very easily, but you can't really have a real-time preview of your work, while with Blender render you can. Okay, so here is my character. It is already UV mapped. Okay, and it was sculpted, so I have a normal map and a displacement map available. So let's create a new material. Let's call it painting. Okay, and we will use the OpenGL shading. So here, GLSL shading, sorry. So here, just select it, so the texture solid, for example, and here you have to switch to texture or Alt Z, and we'll see that it turns to black because we need a light source. So let's add an ME lamp. Okay, let's reduce its energy. Okay, and let's add another one. Okay, I prefer to use multiple lamps with different level of energy, and you will understand why. Because it will allow us to see the normal map effect and the displacement map effect. Okay, so what I usually do is I move those lamps to another layer, enable it. Okay, snap my cursor to the object I'm painting, add an empty, and parent my lamp to the empty, so that I can easily rotate all the lamp by rotating the empty. Okay, so now when I enable both layers, okay, and set display to only render, I only see my character. Okay, now here I will keep those values like this, and we will add some texture. Okay, so first we'll add our normal map. So normal map. Okay, I will load my texture. So here I will open this. In alt maps I have my normal map here. Okay, and I can see it here. Okay, so just one thing, because I made this problem. If you can't see your texture here, most of the time it's because you have enabled the ramp here. Okay, and it can just vanish your map. You can't see it because you changed the way it's shaded. Okay, so just make sure that you're not using ramp here. Okay, and here, instead of the color, I want it to affect the normal, and it will look weird. Oof, that's very, very bad. Okay, because when you are using a normal map, okay, you need to tell Blender it's a normal map, and you will find this here. and now it looks pretty nice. Okay, so disabled, enabled. Okay, you see it's pretty cool to have this first preview while painting for the veins and stuff like this. If you want to add a reddish or bluish color to the veins, that's cool. Okay, second stuff, we will add a new map. I don't know why it moved to this part here. Okay, and this is gonna be our painting map. So I will create a new image and save it. Or diffuse, save. Okay. So here in texture, let's call it org diffuse. So the name of the texture is not the same data as the name of the image, because the texture take every option here in count. Okay, while the image is only the image. Okay, org diffuse. Okay, I have my greenish stuff here, so it affects the color. Okay, and I will add another map, which will be displacement overlay. And most of the time I use the displacement map in overlay mode to enhance my diffuse color, and you will understand, and I will explain you how overlay work. Okay, so image, open, org maps, org displacements. So by default it affects, you see it gives us nice shadows and stuff like this, nice contrast already. It affects the whole color. Okay, because it's mixing, and it is mixed with a 100% value above the org diffuse. The order is first map is under, second is under, third. So I need to change its mixing mode to overlay. Okay, and you see that my base diffuse color already have a nice tone change, maybe a bit too strong. Okay, like this it's enough. Okay, so now what I can do here, go to texture paint, in the slot be aware to select the correct map here, and then jump into painting. Also, one thing I often use is the jitter option here. If you want to make some grain to the skin, okay, that's really nice, because it will give, as I told you before, some randomness to your stroke. Okay, so here the spacing is not big enough, but you see, just create small dots on the skin, and when you are working with a color to blend stuff, instead of blending colors with a smooth stroke, etc., you can use those small dots, and you will have a more natural look to your map. Okay, so you can spend a lot of time doing this, but what I usually do is I have one base color here. Okay, let's say it's pretty nice now, and if I want to add details like veins and stuff like this, I just create other maps. Okay, if I can find them here, I create other maps and change their mixing factor. So what overlay do is any value here, okay, any color with a value that is above 0.5 will lighten your character. Okay, you see, white and black, and any value beneath will darken it. This is why with my displacement overlay we see this nice effect where the deep areas are darkened here, and the bumpy areas are lightened. Okay, so one last thing. Okay, here I have nice cars and stuff like this, and grain for the skin. Okay, but this is because I have used ZBrush to sculpt those details, and it's pretty hard to get those details using Blender when sculpting such a mesh with such big maps. Here it's 4K maps, but on the final character I'm using 8K maps, so pretty hard for Blender to use a level 5 or 6 subdivision while using multi-resolution sculpting. So what you can do is this. Let's get rid of our normal map, or let's imagine that we just have the main wrinkles done with the normal map. Okay, and that we want to make the pores of the skin using another method. Okay, so I will create a new map. We'll call it bump map. Here I will create a new image, bump, and I will fill it with a value of 0.5. No color value, it must be black and white. Not must be, but it's better to use black and white, because how it works, it's very simple. All the values that are at 0.5 doesn't affect the geometry of the mesh, while when it gets higher, so lighter, it will gives you some bumpiness, and while it got under 0.5 you will have creases. Okay, so let me show it to you. I set this to affect the displacement as a bump map. You can't see any difference, but if I paint in black, why? Okay, sorry, you need in the slot to select it. If I paint in black, why it doesn't work? I should see a difference here. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's pretty obvious now. So when I paint in dark, it creases the mesh. If I paint it white, it makes bounces. Okay, and if I want to erase this, just take a value of 0.5, control and paint. Okay, and our mesh is our preview is back to what it was. Okay, so now what I will do is I will use my skin brush, okay, with the alpha. I will use the anchor, a smoother stroke with the anchor, okay, and we will see what happens. So currently I'm using a white value. Okay, it's a bit too strong here. The normal value is too strong. Okay. Well, it's still a bit strong, but you understand that you have to check. Okay, so here I feel like it's a bit too big. Okay, you can change the value here to 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 for example. Okay, and now it looks better. Okay, if I want to soften the effect, that's pretty simple. I will use my 0.5 color, get rid of this, and with the control key pushed on, I will use the space stroke. Okay, and as before, I will be able to soften the effect. Okay, so here I'm only erasing the effect, but when I was painting it, I was using white color, so it means that this surface was bumping, or I wanted to both bump and crease at the same time. So what we can use is a ramp and set it to black and white. Middle value will be our 0.5 value, so it won't do anything. And where our texture has pure white alpha, 100% alpha, it will bump, and where it has no alpha, it will crease. Getting this level of detail in Blender is really hard. Okay, here it's not super nice. Okay, but if you have like 3 different kind of brushes, and let's open the other one, and you work it correctly, you really can get to a super nice result. Okay, reaching those detail in sculpting in Blender is pretty impossible until you have a war machine, a supercomputer. Okay, and here this is where rotating the brush is pretty important. So control right click, control F, sorry, and you can see your texture here. Okay, if you want to make the wrinkles in the correct way. Okay, so you need to be patient and spend a lot of time, okay, doing this. So here I absolutely don't do it properly. So one other important tools in texture painting is this. Okay, it allows you to disable area to be painted. Okay, by default, when you select an area, okay, you can select faces by faces, or pressing L when hovering it, and it will select the current UV island. Okay, if I go into edit mode, you see it has selected this island that is bounded by seams, and it's like pressing L in edit mode with the face mode selected. It will select your UV island. Okay, so if you use the vertex selection, it will select the wall linked model also with this mode, while with face mode it will select only the UV island. Okay, and that's super handy, because if I press Shift H to hide this, get back into texture paint. If you want to isolate an area of your character, you must get back to multi-texture display shading. You can do it with GLSL. So what you can do is use Alt B to isolate an area. Okay, or use a mask. Okay, you will need to use okay, this was to paint the inside of the mouth. I think you will have to use vertex group, so it's a bit long to set up. Okay, So once I'm happy with all of those maps, okay, what I usually do is I combine them in Photoshop. Okay. So you can see we have a mask here, that's just for selection, my UVs, okay, and then I have my displacements that is in overlay mode with only 30%. Don't push it too much, okay? It gives some nice variation, but they are not natural, okay? And when you will render your model, you will see them and it won't be that natural, okay? And I have a detailed displacement map, okay, that is also in overlay. This one is the main displacement from level 0 to level 6 of subdivision, while here it was only the skin tones. And here I have my basic painting, okay. So what I have done also is I have generated an SSS map, a subsurface scattering map, okay, adding those blood veins using a third map, and I also used those veins as a factor for the scale of the subsurface scattering map, okay. So I will show you the shader of my character later, but I believe here we have seen a lot of stuff, okay. So my goal was mainly to show you how to create the maps, okay. So I wish this was interesting. I'm sorry for the my small voice and my slow English, but I'm a bit tired and a bit sick today. Okay, I hope this was interesting and useful for you, and we'll see next time on the new tutorial.